So Liverpool head straight back to the top of the Premier League with a 3-1 win over Burnley at Anfield this afternoon. And you have to say, maybe Liverpool fans were hoping for a little bit more from this performance, a little bit more convincing in terms of scoreline as well, really. You look at Burnley coming to Anfield, they only got 13 points in the Premier League this season, and Liverpool were, they were a wounded animal almost after that defeat at Arsenal last time out. So this felt like an opportunity for Liverpool to really make a statement. And you have to say, actually, in terms of the performance, they actually didn't really do that. I mean, that first half in particular, it ends 1-1, and Liverpool, you could argue really they deserved to be level at that point. I think Burnley had played well enough in moments, they caused enough threat. Liverpool had looked sloppy and out of sorts at times in the game, and so when Burnley get the goal, you can't have too many complaints around that one, because they'd been very much in the game and playing through Liverpool too easily. So it looked like, okay, well, we've had this defeat at Arsenal, the first defeat in such a long time. Has that got into the players' heads? Is there any sort of, not a mentality issue, but, is that weighing on them a little bit heavily? Is that making them a little bit cautious? But we saw Liverpool, a much better version of them in the second half. I thought a much improved performance from that point onwards, and looked a lot more dominant in the game. I will say that Burnley still had the odd opportunity after that. They still had a couple of chances which, if they'd finished those off, then it really would have made a game of it. But in the end, Liverpool come through. And I think, as much as the performance, as I say, was not vintage by any means, it wasn't the best version of Liverpool we've ever seen. I think you do have to remember that, that Arsenal result maybe will be a small part of it, maybe dents the confidence a little bit, so you don't come absolutely flying into this game. And you do also have to acknowledge that Burnley did quite well in terms of the game plan. But I would say the biggest sort of contributing factor really to Liverpool looking a bit sloppy at times, and you really can't get away from this, is the fact that they lost so many players this week. I mean, I've got a list here: Dominic Szoboszlai, Conor Bradley, Joe Gomez, Alisson Becker and Ibrahima Konate, and that is just the players that they've lost over the course of the last week or so. They're already adding to the likes of Stefan Bajcetic, Mohamed Salah, one of the best players, if not the best player in the Premier League, and the absentee list is so long at the moment. So I think, like I say, Liverpool not at their absolute best today, but you do probably have to factor in that losing these key players and losing so many players is going to make things difficult for you, and you're not going to be at your fluent best. And in the end, Liverpool ultimately perform well enough to win that game comfortably, and they come away with a 3-1 win that, as I say, moves them back to the top of the Premier League. And all they have to do at the moment, even if it's not playing well at times and just coming through games and battling through, is keep winning. You've got to keep winning up until that. With that game against Manchester City at Anfield coming up, if they can win the games before that, they give themselves a real chance to create a lead there in the Premier League title race, and that could be a really decisive game. But you have to win the games going up to it. And so today, like I say, not at the best by any means. Bit of a slog at times. Burnley made it really difficult, but Liverpool, they show the character and the quality to come through despite all those changes that were made to the side. And I think you've got to hold that up as sort of evidence of what title winners do, isn't it? That is, you always say, can you win when you're not quite at your best? And Liverpool absolutely did that today. So I think very much one to take the positives from, that they've got that Arsenal defeat out of the system, they're back to winning ways, and they've done it in a game where they maybe weren't at the best. So now it's time to, can they get their best going for these games that are coming up, and go flying into that City game, which I think will be so crucial in terms of where the Premier League title ends up this season. So I'm going to go through the players now, the individual performances as well, and talk about those. And I'll start in goal. Now, obviously, Kevin Kelleher, a bit of a surprise pick, really. Alisson Becker missing out through illness, and nobody really expects that one. And I thought Kelleher deserves a lot of credit for his performance today. Absolutely nothing you can do about the Burnley goal that they scored. An incredible header from miles out, seemingly. It's a great header at the Kop end, and a brilliant finish, and the keeper would have got nowhere near it, even if it was Alisson Becker. So not one you can lay at the door of the goalkeeper. But I think Kelleher's two big contributions really are from a couple of one-on-one situations. There's one in the first half that he gets down really well to save from a tight angle. And then Fofana in the second half, again, I spoke about the fact that Burnley did have the opportunity in the second half, and they both fell to Fofana. One of them he puts wide, but one, it needs a big save from Kelleher. He rushes out, makes himself big, and stops a shot, and then Odeberg comes with the follow-up and blasts that one wide. But it's in a crucial moment in the game that he pulls that save out, and he's played a massive role in Liverpool getting the 3 points. We've said that so many times about Alisson Becker down the years. So for his number two to come in and do a similar job and pull out a massive save in a big moment in the game when Liverpool weren't quite at the best, it's Alisson Becker-like quality, isn't it, that you see in there, and brilliant from Kelleher to come in and do that, because no doubt that he'll probably been short notice really finding out that he was going to be playing in this game. They give Alisson Becker every opportunity to be fit for this one, with it just being illness and the possibility of him feeling slightly better as the days go on throughout the week. But he obviously wasn't ready to come in for this one, and Kelleher's come in as the stand-in and absolutely excel, which we become kind of used to. But Jurgen Klopp talks about him. He says he's the world's best number 2 goalkeeper, and he very much looked like it today. As I say, big saves in big moments, massive role in Liverpool getting the 3 points. So huge credit to Kevin Kelleher for that one, I think. Moving into the defence, I'll start at right back now. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he comes off at half-time. We yet to hear a little bit more about that. I'd be interested to, the noise was that it was an injury precaution. Hopefully it is just precautionary. He hasn't sort of suffered a recurrence of any issues that he's got, or maybe it's a little bit that illness has caught up with him. He's maybe feeling fatigue. We'll have to see on that, because I thought when he did come into in the first half, the part of the game he played, he was quite impressive and quite influential. I mean, he gets an assist from a corner. We know how good he is from those sorts of deliveries in set pieces, but he keeps clocking those up, doesn't he? But it's 11 passes he makes into the final third, which is quite a ridiculous number for just a half of football. 2 chances created, and he looked like Liverpool's most likely creator. I thought, they struggled for control in that first half, but in terms of actual threat that was being produced, I thought Trent was a big part of that. So big miss when he went off, and as I say, we hope that injury's not a big blow, and he hopefully can be back straight into the team next week, because he looked a little bit back to his best after I thought a slightly off-colour performance against Arsenal. Looked a bit more back at it today. So yeah, as I say, hopefully nothing serious with that injury. So alongside him, Jarell Quansah, talk about his performance. It's a weird one, this, because I thought the statistics showed that he performed quite well, really. He wins 3 out of 4 ground duels, 7 out of 7 aerial duels, which is absolutely brilliant. Wins 3 out of 3 tackles as well. And I thought you did see that in his performance, really composed moments of defending, real classy moments, and we always expect that from him. He's been brilliant since he come into the side, hasn't he? But a couple of moments actually stick in my mind that they don't show up in the numbers, but I do think they're worth mentioning. Not to be too harsh on a young player who's done brilliantly since he's come in, but I think you do have to mention this as part of his game and something that happened where when you're judging his overall performance, you have to mention that he makes a couple of errors that lead to big chances for Burnley. One is sort of fails with a clearance that allows Fofana to get onto the ball, and he goes through for a one-on-one, which Kelleher saves. And then there's a second one where Fofana gets in behind, and both of these in the second half where Fofana gets in behind, and that's the one that he actually misses, doesn't even bring a save from Kelleher. And that is, again, is Quansah not stepping up with the line. He should be playing Fofana off in that situation, but he's the deepest defender by a long way, and Fofana gets in for what is a big chance that he should possibly do better with. So, as I say, Quansah, really, really good elements of his performance. I thought, the overall package was very good, but there was a couple of moments where if Fofana produces the finish there, you're looking at 2 moments where Quansah has given away 2 goals or played a big role in that. So, I think when he looks back and he analyses his performance, he'll definitely look at those moments, because we know he's big on that in terms of he's renowned for looking back on his performances and wanting to do a lot of individual analysis. So and being quite hard on himself as well. So I'm sure he'll look back on those moments, because they could have been key moments in the game if Liverpool had gone on to lose it, and he'll want to stamp those errors out, absolutely. So I'll just move on now, and alongside him, Virgil van Dijk. I spoke about how busy Jarell Quansah was in the game, and that happens so frequently. Nobody wants to pull onto Van Dijk's side, so he was a lot less busy. But 3 out of 3 aerial duels won, 6 out of his 8 long balls that he completes as well, actually, which I think is a good, it gives you a good picture really of the fact that he didn't have a lot to do on the defensive side of things. They were always pulling onto Quansah, but he can still be massively influential in games. He's organising people, and he's also that quality in possession. Those 6 out of 8 long balls, Liverpool needed to do that to disorganise Burnley, because they defended quite well at times, Burnley. So I thought, as I say, he was influencing the game in some ways, and in that attacking sense, those raking passes are so important at times, and never more so than today. So he actually creates a chance as well, a knockdown for Quansah that he's very unlucky, whistles just wide of the post. Great effort from Quansah and a good assist from the centre half, and you probably don't see that too often, is one centre half assisting the other. So it would have been brilliant to see that one go in, but another decent performance from Van Dijk in summary, really. And just finish off the defence now with Andy Robertson, and I thought I really, really liked his performance. He wins 4 out of 6 of his ground duels, creates 4 chances, so great on both sides of the ball. And what I loved overall really about the way he played today was kind of his energy as well. He was just absolutely tireless in terms of getting up and down the line, and he always brings that. But he's been out for a little while, and you worry, can he get that back straight away? But he absolutely showed it today. So great to see him back in the side. Be interesting to see what happens with Joe Gomez. Once he gets over that illness. That's a difficult decision for the manager to make. Does he stick with Andy Robertson, or is there a straight rotation between those two? Because I thought Gomez was doing so well at left back, but Andy Robertson really impressive today. So really good competition there in that left back position, and of course Kostas Tsimikas coming back into the frame as well. So it's a really interesting battle in that position. Now talk about the midfielders now, and Alexis McAllister. I'll start with him. Now he actually wasn't in the holding role today. He was moved into the number 8 role, and for me, I think Liverpool's sloppiness in the first half, yes, they had to make a lot of changes because of injuries and illness and things like that, but I thought you could probably trace a lot of it to the fact that McAllister had been moved out of that number 6 position, I think, because he's been so good there in recent weeks and so influential. And I think, up to the half-time mark, he only has 27 touches of the ball, which I think he's the only Darwin Nunez and Quaveen Kelleher in the Liverpool team had fewer touches and that is just not Alexis McAllister. You like to see him when he plays for Liverpool. He gets on the ball an awful lot. He uses it, and it's not just that I don't think he's as comfortable in the number 8, particularly in this Liverpool system and the way that Liverpool play it. They're almost like support strikers, really, the number 8, so they have to be, or a real facilitator like Jones. But it doesn't seem to really suit McAllister, and I also think it makes Liverpool weaker when he is used there, because they struggled, I thought, to kind of pass through Burnley's lines and find the attackers in little pockets of space, particularly in that first half. That wasn't happening. I think you can trace a lot of that back to the fact that McAllister wasn't in that deepest position, wasn't seeing enough of the ball, and in the end, they didn't really solve that issue in terms of making McAllister more influential, because he only ends the game with 60 touches in total, so only just over double what he'd had in the first half. So I still want to see him back in that 6 personally. Again, not to say he played poorly as well, because I've got some numbers here that 5 out of 9 ground duels won, 3 out of 4 tackles. That's really good, but he doesn't create a chance. He doesn't create a single chance, which is what you want from your number 8. And he only makes 4 passes into the final third. Those numbers are usually far higher when he's in that number 6 position, and they're usually dangerous passes. So I really would like to see him restored to the number 6. That's my sort of take on it, because I think he's much more comfortable there, and I think Liverpool maybe play better. And that is no reflection, of course, on the man who did play number 6 today, Wataru Endo, because I didn't think he had a poor game at all, but I still think McAllister's just got that quality there that makes Liverpool tick a bit better when he's playing that position. So if Liverpool get a couple of midfielders back, I'm thinking Szoboszlai maybe he goes definitely into the first choice there. Then I would want to see McAllister drop back. And I'll talk about Endo now as well. I thought first half, I think he kind of struggled a little bit. I think it looked like he was still finding his way back in. Obviously, he's been away from a few weeks, playing in a different system, playing in a different way. But I thought second half, he looked more like back to himself and really started to win his battles. So he ends up winning 7 out of 14 ground duels. I mean, 14 ground duels, to be involved in that shows you how busy he was in the end. Really throwing himself about and getting involved in tackles and duels. He makes 6 recoveries as well. So, really involved in the defensive side of the game. Which is exactly what we were seeing before he went to the Asian Cup. So good to see him back and putting up those sorts of numbers. But I think 6 passes into the final third kind of shows you the difference between him and McAllister, and I think McAllister's numbers there would have been much higher if he'd have seen as much of the ball as Endo. So as I say, for me, I still want to see McAllister in that number 6 role. I think he's such a good fit. No weakness even on the other side of the ball, which is something people were saying he wasn't a good fit because he couldn't tackle and couldn't win his duels, but he's absolutely showing that side of his game. So for me, should be the first choice there, with Endo as a fantastic rotational option going forward. And I'll just finish off the midfield now with Curtis Jones. 4 out of 8 ground duels won, 90% passes completed and 3 chances created. Those are very Curtis Jones numbers. Didn't think we saw the best of him at Arsenal, but I thought absolutely back to his best today. And the fact he puts up those numbers with playing at a half at right back as well just shows you how good a player he is. I thought he looked really composed when he went there. Didn't get beaten down the outside. Marked his winger really well. Just looked like a really solid right back, which for someone who's always has been a midfielder and sometimes more of a forward, I thought just shows his intelligence and quality that he can go and plug that gap and do it with such class. Just a brilliant play, and great to see him back to his best today. So I move into the forward line now, and all 3 of them get the goals, which is you love seeing that when that happens, and forwards will love that as well because they get the goal bonus. So great to see that. I'll start with Jota. Obviously, great goal. He's always there, isn't he? Scoring a header, not the biggest guy, but scoring a header from a set piece, just typical of him. He's so deadly when he gets in the box and the ball gets near him. He ends up with 6 shots today, which is brilliant. Getting into those positions and getting shots away. 76% passing accuracy kind of sums him up. As I say, he can be really, really sloppy on the ball. And 1 chance created. I think what I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him today was a little bit more care around the box, using the ball a little better. I thought sometimes it felt like Jota was getting it and it was coming straight back, particularly in that first half when Burnley were playing quite well. That is maybe something you could be critical of, but he scores a goal, he gets 6 shots. Those are fantastic numbers, and just showed, when you do get the ball to him in dangerous positions, he can make something of it. He will get a shot away, he will create a chance, he will be dangerous, and he's a constant menace in terms of his pressing as well. So, not his best performance, but a crucial contribution to the win in the end. And Darwin Nunez, kind of similar vein really to him. 5 shots, again, ridiculous. Work rate, really, really good, similar to Jota. He forced Burnley into a lot of errors with his running and chasing lost causes a lot today as well. Liverpool kept chipping balls over the top and he kept turning them around, kept keeping them honest, and that was creating space as well. So really enjoyed that element of his performance. But the thing I loved the most was his goal. I just thought, for someone who gets criticised for his finishing, the power he generates on that header and to find the corner from there, absolutely fantastic finish from him, and that'll do him the world of good in terms of his confidence. He always say that, want to see him in the goals as frequently as possible because he gets criticised for not getting enough. So really, really good finisher, and he also creates 3 chances today. One of them in particular, so unlucky not to see Diaz took it away. He's so good at firing those balls across the face of the goal. He always seems to find a Liverpool man, even if there's a mass of defenders around them. He's really, really good at that. So really good contribution from him overall. He's a real threat, and he gets his goal, as I say, and that's massive. And I just finish up the attack now by talking about Luis Diaz again. Really, really liked his performance. I thought, he gets his goal by getting in between the width of the sticks. That's what I want to see more of from him. I think sometimes he's too much like a midfielder and a striker and doesn't have the instincts to get there. We've seen that at times from him, but very much improving that side of his game, and his goals numbers are going really well at the moment. Again, he gets 5 shots away, so Liverpool's attack were just generating shots today. So they were obviously, even when they weren't playing well particularly, they were always going to probably win this game because they were generating attacking opportunities even through moments where they didn't look great. One moment I want to maybe criticise Diaz for is there's a breakaway in the second half where he should slip Nunez in for an easy finish and he doesn't do that, but so much of his performance was good in terms of getting shots away. He worked his socks off like he always does and won 5 out of 7 ground duels, so you always get that energy from him. And I think he really, even when Salah comes back, he's maybe locked down that left-hand side at the moment because of the work rate he gives you with all the attacking quality as well. So be interested to see how that battle plays out, because maybe Salah's going to be back for the next game. So an interesting one for that forward line, because all the 3 attackers have been in there. Obviously Gakpo bench for this one. Who comes in? What's the mix he goes with when Salah comes straight back in? It'll be absolutely fascinating to see. And I just want to finish up by touching on one of the substitutes. Obviously Gakpo didn't have a great opportunity to have an influence, and the other 3 subs that come on really late, so didn't have a big influence on the game. But the one who I thought did was the man who came on at half time, Harvey Elliott. And you look at what he did around the game, and you have to say he wins the game for Liverpool. I mean, he gets 2 assists. The one for Diaz gets a little nick on it, so I don't think he actually will get the assist for that, but it's his cross that gets nodded in, and then he provides a lovely ball for Nunez to header in to wrap the game up. You cannot ask for more really from an attacking substitute, can you, than to come on and provide 2 assists, and he completes 85% of his passes, and I thought really helpful in terms of keeping allowing Liverpool to keep the pressure on. I mentioned that sometimes it felt, particularly in the first half, that the ball kept coming back, but Harvey Elliott, he used the ball really well, really sensibly, and also showed threat with it as well. He's really good at probing defences, I feel, when he gets the ball in between the lines, and it showed that massively today, and gets 2 assists with his sheer quality, and a big part in Liverpool performing better in the second half and ultimately going on to win the game. So maybe count himself unlucky not to have started the game, because if that right hand side of the 2-8s was up for grabs with Szoboszlai being out, I think Harvey Elliott has done enough at times to maybe be the starter there, but he wasn't in the starting 11, but he did enough when he came off the bench, and hopefully that can lead to more opportunities for him, because he's been a fantastic substitute this season, so influential, hasn't he, off the bench, and that happened again today, and it's a big reason why Liverpool walk away with the 3 points. So that sort of sums up my take on the game. As ever, I want to hear from you in the comments. Who was your man of the match? Who did you think stood out? Is there anyone who you didn't think played particularly well today? And what did you think of Liverpool's performance overall? Because, you know, regardless of that, Liverpool have got themselves in a fantastic position. They're back in the top of the Premier League. They want to keep this. They want to get back in another winning run now, don't they? After that Arsenal defeat, and try and put as much pressure as they can on Manchester City and keep themselves in front ahead of that game at Anfield. It's going to be a massive one. And I'm going to wrap up now and just ask you, of course, as usual, to if you don't subscribe to the channel, please do hop on board, because it is a really exciting time around Liverpool. And also, if you can give this video a like, that always helps me to get this video out to as many people as possible. And with so many games coming, I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon.